a.m. We call to order. We do have a quorum. Yes. Uh, what I'd like to do too, I'll leave this to David right here at the moment of silence. Okay.
Yeah, let's have a moment of silence. We have a EMT that passed away, heading to a funeral in about 30 minutes here. So his name is Joseph Bush. He worked with us for a number of years. His daughter works with him as well. James would not be at the meeting, so let's just have a quick moment of silence for him, for the impact that he's made here. So can we bow our heads and have a moment of silence? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is I'd like to recognize and introduce a new board member. Welcome, Miss Christina Willis and Kristen. I'm sorry, I get all that mixed. Just bear with me a little bit.
Starts with a K. You got that.
Okay. So go ahead, man. You can introduce yourself, and we'd like to hear from you a little bit.
Sure. First of all, I'm very excited. Thank you, Commissioner Amison, for giving me this opportunity. I have been a travel nurse, worked at TMH. I was a house supervisor here for 2.5 years. I worked at Bay Medical. I'm currently in nurse practitioner school to try to finish that. And I'm just really excited about some changes and fresh space and getting to work. So thank you very much. I'm super excited about being here.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, do a lot of work. I don't work very hard. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment? If so, not. Next item is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting? I got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If so, minutes approved. Mr. Walker, would you like to introduce the employee of the month, Ms. Gabrielle Pine?
Yes, Gabrielle Pine. She's our employee of the month. She's not here today. She's a night shift nurse. She's a LPN that works the night shift. She was nominated by one of our colleagues, and it states Gabrielle is a team member, serious, conscientious, intelligent, focused on the needs of patients. She's very attentive to the patient needs, never hesitate to advocate for what they need when it's warranted. She's very intelligent, compassionate. She has excellent experience, as well as a team player here at Weems Memorial Hospital. So Gabrielle is one of our nurses, been here for a long time. She's an LPN, so we want to recognize her. She's not here, but let's give her a hand. And if you can look at Gabrielle's picture out there on the wall as well.
I'll tell you what, the people that work the night shift, when you say night shift, I know when I worked, they were some of the most important people to me because I wasn't there. And if you don't have people working that do the job, you don't sleep very well at night. So you look at the importance of stuff, those people, because the hospital's 24-hour operation. So we need to really go out of our way to thank them folks like that. Anybody on the night shifts, and they actually they miss time with family. They don't have administrative staff here to help them make decisions. So they are very, very important. Thank you, David. The next item is the Alliance Overall Service Award. Mr. Walker.
Yes, David Foley can jump in a minute here. You know, we, Alliance Hospital, they recognize, different hospitals, maybe about 4 or 5 hospitals with different type of awards. They just had their annual retreat, and Weems were rewarded the Overall Service Award out of 11 of the Alliance hospitals. And so that's a testament of the staff here. And I always tell the staff, I stand on their shoulders, really. They're doing a great job. And it's amazing because last year we won the Overall Quality Improvement Award. And then the year before that, we won the Overall People Award. And so I don't know if I'm going to bring anything back next year because it's getting very competitive up there with all these other CEOs. But once again, David Foley can talk more about it.
David, y'all have what? You've managed to service, 10 hospitals?
Yes, we do.
10?
And as David mentioned there too, I mean, we do, obviously issues, he mentioned, different awards for different types of, whether it's finance, whether it's growth, whether it's people, quality, and service. But, Weems won the service award for this year. And, the criteria that we look at and what that means when we say overall service award, we look at patient satisfaction scores. That's across all the facilities that we do support and manage. We look at satisfaction scores from patients for the services that are being provided here. We obviously collect the national data that's out there, published nationally as well. But we also have, patient satisfaction, and for those that are nurses in the room and so forth, you understand, when providers and clinicians are providing good quality care, patients will score you well. Right? They're satisfied with the level of care they're receiving. So that is one of the items that we do measure and monitor and recognize those that have improved year over year and those that have improved beyond what others have improved, which helps earn such an award like this. There's also a couple of other areas, and I just want to mention these as well, and it's HCAHPS related scores where folks are willing, recommending this hospital for care, and their willingness to recommend this hospital. And Weems scored the highest year over year compared to all the other hospitals that we do support and manage. So again, I'm all good.
Thank you.
One of the things I tell the staff that sometimes, when you're in it, like when you're really in the fire, you really don't know how well a job you do. Many times you're just trying to take care of patients, And believe me, I hear the good and the bad living in the community, but when other people recognize you from the outside, it's a bit different. So I told them, whatever you do is very important to us, no matter what you do is important. You make the chain go. I'm just here, standing on your shoulders, basically. So I think our staff is doing a wonderful, remarkable job, and thank Alliance for that award as well. Secondly, I believe I'm on my way to the funeral. Slight change on the agenda. Before we have Brian Hall come up to do the audit, we'll have Dr. Conrad, who just got off work, working all night long. We'll have him do his report first. All right. Take care.
Can y'all hear? Here we go. Couple of quick things. The award that went to Gabrielle, I want to extrapolate that real quick to overall nurses. And she just ran out of the room, but who ought to also get a big round of applause is Courtney. And the reason I say that is because she has been working, along with Mr. Walker, she's been working really hard to improve the staffing at night. Y'all know we've had the personnel problems. If we don't have the requisite staffing, we can't put people in. If we don't have the people, we can't get the staffing. So she's done her job, way to go. Now the docs have to do our job, and that's my segue into what we've been looking at. Alliant has been giving us data. Courtney, Mr. Walker, myself have all been looking at it. The key word here is appropriate. Y'all have heard me say this before, but appropriate meaning admissions. We don't put people in willy-nilly. That being said, we are still underutilizing our spaces here. And now that we have really good fleshed out staffing, we don't want to underutilize our staffing so that we don't keep them coming in. We're trying to increase the swing bed population. That's good for the hospital. It's good for local patients. What I am talking with each individual physician about is looking for, underlining this word, appropriate admissions, even for observation. A lot of times when we're looking at admission numbers and admission rates here, we are seeing admissions and it's not including, I don't think it always includes overnight observations. Things like a COPD exacerbation, a simple pneumonia, a chest pain rule out, abdominal pain where everything's normal but they're just not feeling well, things like that where we'll keep someone overnight. Those are important parts of our operation here. They're important services to the community, and they are also admissions. So we are working hard to improve on that. And we have improved somewhat. We've still got a ways to go. The other parts, you see the radiology people and one of our ER docs, Dr. Ward, have been re-privileged, and other than that, I think things are moving along pretty smoothly. To give you a little insight about how things go sometimes, and it only occurred to me because this happened yesterday. Some days you will look at numbers and see a day where maybe we've seen 25 or 30 through the day, and you say, wow, that was a busy day. And then you might see a day on the numbers where, wow, you only saw 4 or 5. You guys really weren't doing much. Well, yesterday, we had a space of 3 or 4 hours where we only saw 2 patients, but both of those patients were fairly critical, with EMS having 1 truck that way out of the county, 1 truck that way out of the county. We had to fly the other patient that needed transferring, and all of that was proper and necessary. But I say that because the character of work in the ER sometimes can be actually more difficult with fewer numbers of patients, depending on why they're here. And so as we go forward talking about the future of Weems as the critical access hospital that it is now, or the so-called standalone rural emergency care center, both of those deserve good thought, but I know you've all heard it before. I want to reiterate, we go to that other model where we're not keeping inpatients. Go ahead and tell the county to triple, maybe quadruple their EMS budget, because that's how strained things would be otherwise. So that's just kind of general impressions from lately. And any questions?
I got something to say. I think in our meetings here, we spend 90% of our time on finances, and of course you got to. Can't keep the doors open, you can't treat patients. But we got to remember, everybody on the board, and everybody needs to remember, our primary, when we come to the decision making, the primary thing we look at is patient care. That's it. That's the bottom line. And I think our patient care has improved. I know I've been in the emergency room a couple of times. My wife went, had to be admitted overnight for observation. Everything was fine, but sure made me feel good for her to be here, And so she had chest pains. They got to do them tests something every so often and everything.
Yeah, every couple of hours.
But it was nice to go back there and just, like, woo, okay, I was worried. But it wasn't nothing, which I'm thankful for. But I think it made her feel better, too.
Right.
Because we'd went home, been in East Point, and if you got the hiccups, you might have thought you'd have a heart attack. I mean, that's about it right there.
Yeah.
I know I'd have had a heart attack probably. I'd have done had 6 just thinking I might have one. So let's all keep in mind, and I'm gonna be a little long-winded here. And one thing I talked to the doctor about when somebody is admitted, the doctor is the most important person in the world. I just want to again ask, let the doctors know they are on a pedestal. They're not very much to me until I'm sick. You understand?
Yep.
So they go from here to way up there. So they need to remember how important they are to that person, and wear it with pride too. I mean, how many professions can be that important to individual? None except doctors, probably. So appreciate what y'all do. I had to run down the field because I really believe in that. And I think as a board, if we make a decision, let's always go back to our vision, providing quality care. That's it. Thank you, Doc. I think you're doing a good job. Anybody else? Any board members? I know I was long-winded. I'm sorry, but things that are important there. Anything else, Doc? All right. Okay, Brian Hall for the 17,000th audit that we tend to have. Seems like I see Brian. It rolls around real quick,
It does.
And for a new board member, Mr. Hall is with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, and we have a mandatory yearly audit. So I guess this is his verbal report to the board about what we need to do, and I think we made some improvements. Go ahead.
All right. So appreciate your time today. Thanks for the invitation and thanks for your business. We do appreciate it. A couple of new faces in the room, but typically how I like to do this is you should all have a copy of the Weems in front of you or in your binder somewhere of the, we're talking about the 24 audit today. high points, the things that I would want to understand if I was in your seat. And then if you have any questions or anything you want me to dive into in more detail, y'all just holler at me. I'd be glad to do it. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and just dive in here. And again, we're talking about fiscal year that ended September 30th, 24, so we're not talking about any numbers today. So if you got it, yeah, looks like we'll find
Got it.
There we go. Okay, so the first page after the table of contents, so pages 1 through 3, is our audit opinion. So this is a clean, what we call an unqualified opinion. Basically means that we're not aware of any material misstatement of the financials. So let's skip ahead to page 10. Give y'all a second to get there. Okay. Yeah, the management, the first section of the management discussion analysis, that is management, that's not us, so I'll skip over that. So page 10 is essentially your balance sheet. The assets are what the hospital owns as of September 30, 24. So what I like to do is kind of compare these numbers year over year and look at the changes. So the top line on there, you'll see cash. We had, as of September, so not today, but as of September 24, we had $2.9 million in the bank. That's a strong position. That's as strong as it's been in the last 5+ years. So that's obviously a good thing. I know we've had to spend some of that from September to today, but as of September, that was a good number. The second number on there is receivable, so that's how much you're owed from insurance companies and patients for the services you're providing. In any healthcare audit, we spend a large portion of our time going through receivables and revenues, making sure that's really good numbers, collectible numbers, something that will turn into cash. So very comfortable with that number at 1.1. It's up a little bit from last year, but pretty close. The next number on there is due from other funds. That is the amount that county owes you as of September 30th. And then pretty much the other numbers on this page are going to be pretty consistent with the year before. So going to the next page, page 11.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
How about your allowance? Is your allowance going to go up?
Yes, so you are about, currently, that's a good question, as always. You're currently about 66% reserved. And we monitor that. And we also look at the collections after year end on that AR. And as of the end of January, you've collected almost all of it already. You had a little bit left to give. So that is, that 1.1 is a conservative and good number, I think. So on page 11, if assets are what the hospital owns, liabilities are what the hospital owes. So again, just kind of looking at the changes on here, the accounts payable is the biggest number at $1 billion. Really, what we're looking for there is we kind of compare that to cash. You had almost $3 million in cash. You owed your vendors about $1 million. So that's good. And then we're looking to see that that number doesn't increase significantly. So it's flat year over year, which is good. You guys are not holding, you're not stretching your vendors or holding invoices or anything like that. So y'all are in pretty good shape there. Two down from there, the due to other funds. You'll see some more communications about that. It's a little bit complicated, but very short story is we got some money after September 30th from the USDA that the county says is their money. So we got the money, we turned around and gave it back to the county. It was after September 30th, so the question is why it's on here. The county reported it as a receivable from us at September 30th, and because we're a part of the county, we have to do the same thing so their numbers tie out. So we've got a due to the county of $510,000 that's since been paid, and then we've got a hit to our transfers, which I'll talk about here in just a second. That's kind of a weird situation, one-off situation. Next number on there, unearned revenue, $350,000. That is money that the state of Florida has given us that we will be able to keep and use for expenditures, but we have not reported on it as of September 30th. So we have to show it here instead of throwing it, flowing it through.
We have to use that money for certain things,
Correct.
right? That's grants and stuff like
That's
that.
correct.
Okay, so that's,
Yep. So
that's not part of
appropriate.
cash. That's not part of cash.
Well, it would be in cash.
It'll be in cash, but it's
not on then the next number on there, estimated third-party settlements. So this is where we put, if the cost report, you owe anything back, you put that there. And then really the majority of this is the WIP payback, which any of y'all that were in the room last year will be familiar with this. We still haven't paid that money back, but we know we owe it.
Brian, we got a new board member. Explain LIP
Yes,
right,
sir.
right quick.
Okay, so this is super complicated.
I'm on things that
Can you
I
get me
hadn't,
up to
I
speed?
thought we were fishing the first time I heard LIP. Okay,
That's
so I'm
right.
just, I'd like
Okay.
to know that.
So LIP is in the state of Florida, and this, I'll point you to some documentation in here that explains it, but in the state of Florida, how you get paid for Medicaid is in various different forms. So you get your debts, you bill them, they pay. You also get DISH, which is disproportionate share, and you get LIP, which is low income pool. So basically, in the state of Florida, they give you a portion of the cost of your charity care, kind of what it boils down to. So over time, Florida, this money comes from the feds, largely from Washington. Turn around, they hand it out to the hospitals. Florida handed out more than the hospitals were entitled to over time. CMS, which is the feds, sued Florida. Florida settled and it passed it to the hospitals. So, very short story is we owe a certain amount of money, which is about that, roughly that $300,000. And then and that's for years 2014 to 18. And then we know we're gonna owe from 19 through current, but we just don't know how much. So the 290
Maybe we'll get some. Maybe it'll go the other way this time.
You're optimistic.
By the way, we have no control. We just have to assume that money is supposed to be ours. I mean,
That's right.
they have a,
It's
you know.
nothing that anybody did wrong. The state of Florida, if I was them, I did the same thing. They're giving out as much money as they can and then deal with the repercussions later. So they gave you more than you were entitled to. We owed 200, it's about 300,000 we owe back. And then if you come to the long-term liabilities, and you see the estimated, so right there in the middle of the page, the estimated third-party settlements of less current portion, that 984, that is what we're estimating we'll owe for the years after 2018. Now, I will tell you that the state of Florida is negotiating with Washington to try to get these numbers down. So this is not a known, this 984 is an estimate, it's not a known number. So hopefully, knock on wood, it'll be much less than that, and we'll be able to take that number down. But we'll see. So the only amount that we actually do owe is what they've sent us, which is roughly 300,000. The rest of that's an estimate. So, all that being said, on page 10 we had assets of $9.3 million. We have liabilities, which is kind of towards the bottom of the page on page 11 of $3.7 million. So if you take what you own minus what you owe, the rest is equity, and that's about $5.6 million. So this is what I would consider a pretty strong balance sheet for a hospital your size.
Really?
I think they would probably echo that. They're in pretty good shape. So now on page 12, we'll look at, this is the actual operations of the hospital. So what you would call an income statement. So the top section is the money in, the operating revenues. So you'll see that your net patient service revenue, so that's treating patients, was $9.6 million for 24, and it was $7.5 for 23. So it was up 28%. So you had a banner year in terms of operations for 24. So that's great. So then we come down and we say, all right, well, what did the expenses do? So you can see in operating expenses, top line there, salary, wages, and benefits is 6.5 versus 5.5 the year before. So our salaries went up $1 million. The lion's share of that was related to the EMS, which I think you guys probably talked about. And if not, we can talk about it if you'd like. So that's kind of who ate up a lot of the salaries. But most of the expenses here, the other sections, if you kind of compare them year over year, are going to be very similar, which is good. You're trying to control your expenses and doing a good job of that. But the salaries kind of got us this year. So right there in the middle of the page, operating income and loss, you'll see before you add in the money from the county and the grants, you'll see we lost $3 million, 24, and we lost 3.6 in 23. So that loss is narrowing, which is good. It's moving in the right direction, but obviously we've still got a ways to go there. Then the next two sections is where you're adding in your...
Could I ask you one question?
Yes, please.
How many small hospitals that you do the books for and the audits for are actually earning money in operational income without support from the county or taxes or anything else.
That would be a 0.
Okay.
I just want to make that point.
I work with many. There are some out there, but they are kind of uniform. From being a critical access hospital.
Right.
So the next two sections we're adding in our grants and money from the county. So again, I'll highlight, if you look at transfers there at the bottom of the page, the positive number, 2.6 million, that's how much the county gave us. You'll see that number's flat from the year before. Transfers out is how much we gave them. And that 512 is that, what I was talking about, the USDA.
Mm-hmm.
So when you add it all up, you go 3 lines from the bottom where it says increase, decrease in that position. If you wanted to think about it this way, that's your net income, or all-in net income, net loss. So loss of about 658,000. However, in that 658 is the 500,000 weirdo issue. So if you took that out, you're very close to break even. You're very close to break even, including in 23, including the money from the county. So all in, y'all are close to break even. The next page, 13, is the cash flows. This just shows where the cash is coming in and out. This statement is I've been doing this a long time. It's still more complicated than I think it needs to be. So I just look at the totals here. The top section, for just, if I was in a board member seat, this top section is running the hospital, the ambulance services clinic. So how much cash do we put in the bank from that, or how much does it cost to do it? So if you look at the subtotal of that first section, $1.8 million negative. So it costs $1.8 million to run the entity. Now that's before we get any county money or anything else. The next section is where you show the county money in your grants. Obviously that's a positive. That's what you want it to be. That's the money coming in from the county mostly. And then the next section is related to your infrastructure. So your building, your equipment, your vehicles, all the stuff that you're buying. And when you add it all up and go down to the bottom, 3 numbers from the bottom, you'll see our cash went up $1.2 million during the year. So, yes, it costs money. We're losing money to run the entire operation. But the money that we're getting from the county and grants and just us kind of watching pinching pennies, we're still putting more cash in the bank and storing it, which is kind of honestly, that's what everybody should be focusing on.
One other thing I'd like to just bring to the attention. We are also supporting the EMS, which is losing money. So if we weren't supporting the EMS program, which we've been looking at, the board has been looking at that, how would we fare with our bottom line?
Okay.
That's what I was fixing to ask. Thank you.
Okay, great question. So, as you know, the county had an external firm come in and take a look at things. The county also had me take a look at things each of the last 2 years. The numbers, depending on who you ask and what you look at, are going to vary. But the short story is, my personal belief, and don't quote me on this, even though I know I'm on the recording. The EMS, the county gives you about $700,000 roughly to run the EMS. The EMS, if you take what they bill and what you get, and then the payroll and the other costs, it costs you at least twice that.
How much? Twice that?
At least twice.
1.4.
Yeah, probably 1.5 million.
Okay.
And this is just not audited numbers.
Right, I understand.
It's just me talking. So if, and I understand there's some conversations here, if the county were to take the EMS completely out of you guys and take it down, you can expect, I would expect personally, your income statement is going to go positive. We should show a profit after. If we don't, then there's something going on. Because that is, and I'm not blaming, I should say, I'm not blaming anybody for the EMS. EMS across the nation, it's a rigged game. They're always pretty much without doubt. So it's just a very expensive operation to run. It has very poor reimbursement. It's hard to get paid for those services. It's just kind of a public service that needs to be provided. And the money the county is giving you, I think they would probably say the same thing. The money they're giving you is not sufficient to cover that. those losses will still be there. You can move from you guys to the county, and those losses will still be there. Okay, so
They're not gonna give that anymore. That 765.
yeah,
It's got moved over to
Yeah.
the.
I have no way of knowing. My presumption would be if they take the EMS out of you guys and bring it to them, they would stop giving you the 700. That would make sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that would work. So the notes to the financials is just, for the new board members, just explanatory. So there's a lot of stuff in here. And obviously we could be here all day if we want to get through all of it. So I'm just going to hit the high points. On page 20, give you a second to get there. The second paragraph on page 20 is here to here. So as a public hospital, our mission is to serve patients regardless of their ability to pay. So third line from the bottom in that charity care paragraph, one of the things we have to do is estimate the true dollar costs of charity. So charity is indigent people that don't have the ability to pay that you guys service anyway as part of your mission. So the cost of that was $251,000 in 24, and the cost the year before was $157. That is a meaningful number. In the grand scope of these numbers, it doesn't sound too large, but I would draw to your attention that this is important to the community. We are serving patients, and it is costing us real money, regardless of their ability to pay. So you're doing your mission. And then also, you remember when we talked about your net income or loss, you were almost break even. If you didn't have these costs, you would have been wrong. So that's a good point, and that's a good conversation that we need to have. We're not in business ultimately to make money. We're providing a service. We're trying to live within our means. So that's a good information point. Page 24, note 4. This kind of shows you who owes you money at the end of September 24, and where it comes from. So you can see Medicare, Medicaid, other payers, patients, and then the allowances. So we're writing that down what we actually expect to collect. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, but a lot of work goes into this to make sure these numbers are reasonable. That bottom line number, that 1.1 million, that you're actually going to be able to collect that in cash, and we're quite comfortable that you'll get there on that. Page 26 and 27. I don't think I need to spend much time on 26 and 27, but I just wanted to bring your attention that if you're ever interested, note 6 discusses all the activity between you guys and the county. So it shows the money going back and forth, and it also shows the breakdown of what you owe to your vendors and that kind of thing. So a pretty important note if you ever kind of want to get a little more detail on how all that works. So page 30, I know I'm moving fast, so if anybody has any questions, please.
Page what, 30?
30. So at the bottom of page 30, we talk about net patient service revenue. So the percentages there, you can see basically how much of your patients, what insurance card they have in their pocket when they walk in the door. They got one. Okay? So why this is important is, as a critical access hospital, you essentially, if you make it really simplistic, as a critical access hospital, you are guaranteed that you cannot lose money on Medicare. You're not going to make much, but you cannot lose money on Medicare. The rest of them, Medicaid, you will lose money. The other two is just based on the contract. So Medicare, we always look at your Medicare volume. So you're about 25%, so 1 out of every 4 dollars that you guys earn are from Medicare. The rest of it comes from a mix of Medicaid, Medicaid managed care, Blue Cross, commercial, uninsured. So where that's important is when you think about the rural emergency hospital status, when you guys have that kind of conversation, if you give up critical access hospital status, all this kind of wraps into big conversations about who's walking in the door. Because the more Medicare volume you have as a critical access hospital, the better. You guys don't have an awful lot of Medicare, traditional Medicare volume right now. If that number was closer to 50%, it might be a different conversation. But anyway, just wanted then at the bottom there, you can see the makeup of your revenue. 16.3 was that million of charges. Charges do not relate to what we're actually going to put in the bank. So you take that 16.3 million and you write it down to what you're actually going to collect via contractuals and bad debts, and get to the 9.6, which is obviously still quite better than 23. So I had a good year. On page 31 and 32 and 33, the LIP issue that we had spoke about in the DISH issue, there's 3 pages, but there's 3 pages kind of trying to explain how DISH and LIP work and the paybacks, etc. So I would just bring to your attention I always like to look at the amount of the DISH and the LIP that you got. So you guys got DISH and LIP of $1.9 million in 24. You got $1.6 million the year before. So it did go up 300,000, which is good. But just to kind of give you a feel, so in addition, when you treat a Medicaid patient, you bill Medicaid to pay you, but they also give you a lump sum in the hospitals, a lump sum every year, which we have little to no control over. They gave us an additionally $1.9 million in 24 and 1.6 in 23. And with the rural hospital.
Could I ask you one question? When we receive these funds, and since we know some of it has to be paid back, should we be putting a reserve in for some of these funds that we know has to be paid back? You've talked about that, Mr. Barry. I know that.
You know, I was talking to the public. I said, you already put that in there, didn't you?
So, very good question. So I would say on the balance sheet, that number is kind of earmarked. There's a lot of it. If you're talking about setting aside cash, that is not there now, but that's a meaningful discussion. That would not be, I would say it would be more common than not to set aside some and say, we're probably going to have to pay some of this back. You typically call it a board designated asset, which is where you just tell management, hands off this amount of cash, set this aside, and you have that right.
Is there some historical trend as to how much or what percentage we're actually getting back? Paid back?
Yes. So we have a calculation that David and Jason have. They shared it with you. I'm happy to do that. But we calculated the math of when they asked you money back for WIP, and they've asked other hospitals, not you, for money back for DISH. We run the calculations, the math to show how they got there. And then we've applied that along with Jason to the years after that to come up with that estimate. So we know that. What we don't know is if those trends will continue in the future. We don't know if, because all this happened because at the time, the Biden administration and the Florida, very red administration were not getting along. So this all happened during that. We don't know what's going to happen with the new administration. If any of this goes away, if it ends at 22, 23, or if it's going to be an every year issue. Just brought up.
We don't know necessarily what the percentage was that we were required to get back.
I don't know them off the top of my head,
Right.
but we have that number. It's not very complicated to get to. So if you wanted to say, when we get our dish for this year, which actually about to get it for you, if you wanted to say how much of that is it, what's our exposure for having to pay it back, you could do that.
I think that would be a smart thing to do.
Since David and Jason are, I'll bring that up to them.
Our CFO is here, so.
So David, if you'll remind me, I'll get with David and Jason on that. We'll get you some numbers. But if you were to tell management that you wanted to set aside cash, I do believe that would take a motion. You need to tell them the amount and make a motion, and then that would be called for designated assets. So it would come out of the cash line on the balance sheet and into the middle section, which is basically a hands-on.
While you're on this subject, let all the board members know, there's a bill up in our legislature. I think Senator Simon has sponsored one for the Senate, and Senator Schoaf has sponsored one for the House. It's called, the Rural Counties rural renaissance, built, it's cut out for small counties. And I believe our calculation, $700,000 or $800,000 possibly would get extra in something there. You know, so support that bill. You know anybody you can talk to? I mean, that'd be nice to get. And that would be our dish money or what would that be? Where's that come? It's a yearly. It'll be a yearly. David, are you familiar with that? Where the money? How the money would? We don't know how the money would come to us.
Try to turn. But, the Rural Renaissance, which is, like you said, sponsored by Senator Corey Simon, I mean, and the Senate President is also
Oh, yeah.
supporting this bill, and it's already passed through the Senate.
The committees. It's gone through the committee.
Gone through the committees, and the biggest advantage, one of it is it continues the Rural Hospital Improvement Grant, which is monies that the hospital has been able to get the past couple of years, which is going into the CP project.
Right.
Moving back inside, getting out the building and what have you. But the other large advantage for critical access hospitals is that this bill will recognize the Medicaid program to reimburse critical access hospitals at cost. At Medicaid's share of
Medicaid.
costs. So to Brian's point earlier, when you look at Medicare being about 25% of our business, and that's traditional Medicare. Medicaid, I know it showed 2%, but I think what's categorized, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, in that commercial-based area where you had 55 plus Medicaid managed care. So those programs will follow suit with paying costs for that shared business, which again, is tremendous. That's getting back to your number, and that's where this hospital will get a nice lift from that. And again, I think this is,
Knock on wood, yeah.
Hopefully this will go all the way through, because again, the Senate President is supporting it as well, and then you got Corey Simon is really helping drive this home and benefit tremendous help for rural hospitals. That's called rural renaissance.
We want the governor to sign. I'll sign it, not cross it
Yeah,
up.
they're supporting it, so it's extremely helpful for the hospitals.
Okay.
That would be great.
Mr. Chairman, can you get the percentage number that Brian has so that we can set that up as set aside so that we have it available? That'd be the conservative approach.
I guess we need a motion. Let's let Brian finish up, and then we'll get a motion there.
I think he said we need the actual number, so until we get that number back,
Okay,
I don't
all
think
right.
we can make a motion on it until we get the number
Okay,
back.
all right, I got you.
Right?
Understand now.
So, I'm going to go all the way to page 36. The only other thing I was going to mention was you guys paid off the Tallahassee Memorial balance that had been out there forever. And just to be clear, it was not that you guys were not paying Tallahassee on purpose. Because we would touch them every year and ask them, and they would always say, keep them. You still owe us, don't pay us. So they wanted that ace in their pocket. So they played the ace. So you guys did pay the $500,000 to Tallahassee after these numbers. So, but the good thing is the county gave you the money to pay.
Right.
So you have a payable on these books that you ended up not having to pay in cash to use the county money. So that's a $500,000 pickup to your bottom line going into this year. So that's good.
Unless the county says they want it from us.
And I don't think so page 36. So in Florida, there's various reports we have to issue. Page 36 is a report that we have to look at your investments and see if they're in compliance with the Florida laws. You guys don't have any investments. It's kind of nothing there. Page 37 and 38 are the internal control report. So I do like to kind of go over the findings every year. We had 3 material weaknesses, which material weakness in our language is any finding that either did affect the numbers materially voluntarily or could set the numbers of chairs. So we got 3 findings. The first one, these are on page 39. So the first one, we had accrual basis accounting. So this is basically a finding for all the adjustments we needed to make. I will tell you very clearly that the numbers got much better, cleaner in 25. We're not there yet, but we're making our way there. Like again, I worked with Jason for 10 plus years, big Jason fan. David, great guy too. Jason is a good accountant, so the numbers, the cleanliness of the numbers that we were given the audit were vastly better this year. But Jason was only there for a portion of the year, so there was still some cleanup stuff going on. So anyway, you can read 2024-01, and you can see kind of the numbers we changed. There were fewer changes, but there were still some meaningful changes we made to the numbers in the audit. 2402, this is one that I talk with David about every year, but quite honestly, this one's probably going to be there forever. As a small hospital, you have a very small accounting department. A lot of people wear a lot of different hats. It's just not an ideal situation, but it is our reality. So absent spending a lot of money to hire a bunch of people, you're probably wasting money. This finding is just going to stay. It's kind of just one of those situations and one of those things you kind of expect in a small facility. And then the last finding, code 3, is the information technology. So last year in 23, we made a finding you guys needed to get a risk assessment, see what your vulnerabilities were from an IT perspective, and then correct those vulnerabilities. My understanding is that I have seen an engagement letter that you guys have signed up somebody to do it. I don't know what the status of that is, but hopefully that's in the process of being corrected in the year we're in now. But again, Dave would have to comment on that. So I'd like to see that one go away next year, but we'll see.
We're taking care of that. Are we working on that one? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Page 42 and 43 is called a management letter, but this is a letter we have to send to the state of Florida every year. Basically, it tells them a bunch of things that they keep up with in the legislature, has the findings in there, et cetera, but nothing really additional to what we've already talked about. And then page 44 to the back is a lot of stuff, but it's everything that I'm required by my professional standards to put in writing. So I would encourage you as a board member to read it. And just obviously, if you have any questions, let me know. Really, a lot of words that don't say an awful lot. But on page 48, there was kind of 5 little points I wanted to go through quickly. These are just things that I felt, they weren't findings, but I felt meaningful enough to tell you about. So page 48, first point is just drawing your attention to the internal control board. We've already done that. Second point is just highlighting the EMS costs, the payroll costs have increased. There was a lot of talk, a lot of activity, a lot of work was put on us from the county and the hospital to get our arms around that, make sure that nothing there was inappropriate. We didn't see anything that was inappropriate. We saw a lot of people doing an awful lot of work and getting paid a lot of overtime. But the amount they were getting paid was not fraudulent. I think people took advantage of the situation that was given to them. I probably would have done the same thing if I was younger.
You're referring more to EMS than you are the hospital, correct?
Pretty much all EMS at this point. There's a couple of similar situations in the hospital, but by and large, it's an EMS issue. So we're just recommending that you guys that management give you the reports you need to keep an eye on that. As long as EMS is under our umbrella, you kind of look at the overtime, make sure things aren't getting out of control there. The third point is we were talking about the USDA funding that really came in after the year end, and we had to give it back. So we already talked about that. Fourth point on page 49 is the EMS, again, moving into the county, if that's what they want to do. One thing that I would mention, and David probably talked to you about this too, is that will have a financial impact, and it's going to be a lot of different ways that we're not thinking about. We know about the payroll and stuff that we're shifting to the county. We know the $700,000 they're giving us. The county's given us, they won't give us anymore. What we don't know is how it's going to impact the cost report. What we don't know is how it would impact the dish, if any, and that theoretically it should not impact either one of those, but it could. So just all that to say, when and if the county pulls the trigger on doing that, there's some work we need to done, or somebody online needs to do to kind of get your arms around all of it, because there'll be some one-off situations where it may either help us or hurt us, but we're not thinking about what that is. It's just not as easy as flipping a switch.
Yeah.
And then the fifth and last point there is talking about manual journal entries. So a manual journal entry is when someone changes your numbers. I think old school had to actually do a debit and credit and sign off on it, put it in the system. So it's not the system doing it automated. So there was some, for a portion of the year, where those weren't signed off or they didn't have support that were in a timely manner. We've already I talked about this personally with Jason. This issue was largely before Jason was here. So Jason is all over it and is already putting in some procedures to make sure this doesn't occur again. We didn't find anything inappropriate, to be clear. It's just simply, we had sign-offs that were a month later, or we had some support that wasn't there when we asked for it. So I probably talked more than I should have. I apologize for that. But anything else y'all like me to dive into?
I'd just like to you got good cooperation with the audit from the staff and a lot, right? Nothing hid or anything, and you open, okay, good. I mean, I want to note that.
Absolutely, and that's going to be in that document. So if there was any disagreements with management, if you guys didn't cooperate, if there's any fraud, first off, you would have heard from me a long time ago.
Well, now we're allowed to disagree with a little bit of disagreement. You can go pout up, can't you, a little bit?
If you disagree about anything, we'll have to put it in writing. But no, you have a great team. You have a great small hospital here. Everybody's trying to do things the right way. I'm confident in that. You guys have always been over backwards to help us.
Okay, we need to. We're supposed to.
And things are getting better. We still got work to be done, but things are moving in the right direction.
Brian, are you at liberty to address the security issue that you and I spoke about openly or not?
Yeah, I can do it.
I think it's a good example that
Yeah,
the board should
I'll
use.
do it in broad strokes. So, where we are with IT is, so hospitals, really anybody that has patient data is a target for IT. And these threat vectors, they call it, it's coming from all over the world. It's not just from the United States. They're coming from China, India, Ukraine, Russia. They're constantly targeting hospitals. The reason for that is a few things. One is if they can get a hold of patient data, it's very valuable in the black market. If they have my Social Security number, it's worth maybe pennies. If they have my full health records, it could be worth 10 times that. So they're after that data, and then likewise they've learned that they can lock up your system, that hospitals will have to pay to unlock it. And it's actually a lot more than that. So I have seen pretty much all of my hospitals at some point have been affected by IT risks. We had one hospital which was talking about who very recently just learned that someone had impersonated the CEO, sent emails to the CFO saying, "Hey, expender," right? And not only did they impersonate, they sent it from the CEO's email. They were in there. They were very patient, and they waited for a vendor to ask for money with an invoice. They took that invoice, they changed the ACH number, the routing number, and sent it to CFO and said, "Pay this." It was a vendor that was supposed to be paid. It was a legitimate invoice just for the change routing number. It was an email from the CEO. Honestly, if I was in the CFO's position, I probably wouldn't have made it. It was very hard to stop that kind of thing. So, all that to be said, the guys that are doing this is not kind of the chubby guy in his mom's basement. They're doing this on the hobby. These are legitimate, organized crime syndicates. In some of these countries, they are part of the government. You get to North Korea, China, that's why we say it's not a matter of if, it's a when. You gotta be impacted by this. So what you wanna do is do an IT risk assessment, really spend some time on it, see where your vulnerabilities are. Address those vulnerabilities, and all this should be very confidential, by the way. I'll actually be discussing in executive session. Because the worst thing we can do is go out vulnerabilities and leak out in public. But address that, and really ultimately, you can't stop this from happening. What you're trying to do is make it where the hospital down the street is easier to cover. So they knock on your door, they say it's locked, and they'll go in.
Make it difficult so they move somebody else. These are pickings, okay? They
They
really,
get you, they'll get you.
yeah, yeah, make it cost more than what it's worth, okay?
So that is just a new world. So we are recommending you guys take a look at that, and that report, when it comes back, if it's done correctly, it's gonna show that you can do it for Tampa General, Orlando, and you're gonna find them. They do it for Tampa. So it's gonna show things that you have risk, and then you're gonna have to go fix those risks. So it does take a little bit of time.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions?
All right?
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you. Okay, 5-minute break, y'all. Meeting is now called to order again. Let's see. The next item will be, Ms. Courtney, offered. Wait a minute, action, Dr. Samuel Ward. We got a couple of, action items here first. Dr. Samuel Ward, active privilege of Southland. One of our, did he mention that? Okay.
But we do need a motion.
And
We need-
I'll-
yeah.
I'll need
a
to sign
motion.
these, right?
Yes, sir.
They've been vetted and all that, the other privilege.
And a motion.
Okay. So I need a motion.
Yes, sir.
I need a motion to approve Dr. Samuel Ward, Southland, and Dr. Nelafar, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that, consulting privilege, investment. To have a motion to approve this. This is routine stuff.
Motion.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? I'll sign it.
I just have a few brief updates I wanted to talk about. First, a couple trainings. So we have a sexual assault program. I know I've mentioned to you guys that I've been working on that, trying to get it back in the county, get some trained nurses, get the program running because our nurses aren't really trained. And what the Florida statute obligates us to do is provide that service, not to provide it in-house, not our staff to provide it, but provide the service. So I've worked with the Refuge House for some time, currently working to provide the service with the advocacy program out of Bay County. But I do have 2 of our personal nurses set up to take a 5-day course in Tallahassee, April 21 through 25 to be registered. Also Friday, I'm meeting with the head of Refuge House in Tallahassee and the local provider who has offered her space, a room in her office, to be able to provide those exams. So I've been working with the Sheriff's Department, update Whitley Wilson, who's our advocate, and update, and also Creamer, and then the one that just took Florida Justice place as well. So keeping everybody updated on that. Friday, I'll have confirmation, hopefully, on that location securement. And then I've got 4 nurses interested, 2 are already registered for that course. So I'm hoping by June 1, we're good to go there.
Good.
But we still are providing the service. We need to be doing it for the Refuge House, because the Refuge House currently cuts off really at the county line between Franklin and Gulf. So we're having to outsource to provide the service, which is okay. But we need Refuge House to do it there. So excited about that. We do have another BLS, ACLS, PALS class coming. There's going to be in May 2 of those. That's offered to all our staff. Part of the job description for RNs, EMS, different people like that. So that'll be another education opportunity. And then we have another education opportunity on April the 30th. We have the University of South Florida. So the American Hospital Association chose 2 rural or critical access hospitals nationwide to get the service, and we were chosen as one. So the University of South Florida offers something called CAMELS, and it's actually called the Center for Advanced Medical Learning and Simulation. They bring this big, kind of like a huge ambulance in a sense, and they do this simulation training with us, and we chose to do OB because that's something that you don't see often, but when you see it, you need to know what you're doing. So they're coming in on the 29th. Osteen and I are setting up 2 rooms, but they're going to have their unit here as well. And we have 20 right now registered staff for that, and then they'll take up to 24. And Osteen and I will attend as well. But that's going to be like an all-day, 8-hour OB training where they actually have mannequins that will deliver babies and all kinds of stuff. They're sending an OBGYN physician with them with some more medical staff. So super excited about that. And that's a $15,000 course that we have been given for free.
Fantastic.
So we're super excited. We were chosen for that, and we've been working with them. This started when Randall was here, and he and I have been working on it for some time, so it's coming April 30th. So some different training opportunities we're excited about. Then I was going to mention that April 4th will be a career day, as we always are at Franklin County School. Dan is going to attend radiology and respiratory. So generally, we like to keep it with just a few staff members because they are paid for that educational time they're provided. So we usually say 3. So we're sending those 3, and then EMS will be there as well. They always take a truck and truck out there, so Osteen will have some staff there. So we're excited about that. We'll be present there and giving out some goodies and stuff there. We also, as far as swing bed, we currently have 3 swing bed patients today. Those numbers, as you may see, kind of decreased for February, right, I believe, but March have increased. We've had quite a few referrals.
Yeah,
And so
good.
we're super excited about that, where we can get more referrals. Dan has been reaching out, so Mr. Walker and Dan and I have been meeting every other week, and then Dan and I have been meeting every week, so that we keep Mr. Walker informed and all these things too. And we have him traveling 1 day a week. So he's going to Leon County 1 week and Bay County the next. And we're taking goodies to those facilities. We're hitting the main hospitals. We're hitting the TOCs, the outpatients, all those kind of things. And I will say I do definitely believe that's increased. With the help of Lori Franklin, I will always give her credit. She's super helpful there. Because we've also implemented that, I think I told you guys last time, how we were following up on transfers that are going through our ED and also going to work with EMS. And EMS James has been reporting to Dan daily, almost daily, of any transfers that they take from their home or residence out of the county that would be possible swing bed admissions that we may never see. Otherwise, without James, we would never know. So he's been following up. When we get that information, we can provide it to Lori, who has access to their systems, and she can get us a little more information, then we can call case management. So I think that's definitely
We
important.
get them
as
on
well.
the front end then, before
Right,
the
you get 'em
other-
on the front end.
Before they see the other hospital,
Right,
whatever
because
they call it.
we all know, as we've said before, TMH's job is to get them out the door. They probably don't really care if they're coming back home, they're coming to us, or they're going to Encompass. Their job is to move them so that they can
Move 'em,
open a
right.
bed. So we have to be the ones to work that side of it.
Good.
So we
Good
did
strategy,
yeah.
real good strategy.
So we did talk about that activity room for swing beds. It is almost complete. It's got new lights. We put up some of the butterfly arts. I know you guys probably saw or heard about the butterflies that they came in and painted. John Fate with the Hospital Art Association. He was spending a month here on the island. He actually came into the ER as a patient. And then within that month, he came and met with Mr. Walker and myself, and then Val Webb, and then did some paintings. And now we've got some ceiling tiles around the hospital that are butterflies, and we put them in the activity room. So if you see some, that was a cool opportunity, and he's done them all over the world. He's painted them and has them in hospitals all over. So that's kind of cool. But we do have our swing. We have some in our swing bed room 108. It's designated for activity room, where we'll take the patients out of the room. They get out to go to therapy anyway, 5 to 6 days a week. But sometimes you just need to get out of that bed and get out of that room. So this will give them opportunity to do things with the nurse and staff will do that. And Dan will, as a swing bed coordinator, will also provide those services to the patients as needed as well.
Thank you for that more involved coordination.
Yes,
That
and it's helped.
situation. I ran across one this week that I don't know how it's handled. An individual from Lanark had to go to had a seizure, stroke, went to Capital Regional, and then they didn't have the pulmonary or whatever was necessary on staff, so they had to send him over to TMH. Now, here comes the best part. After he got finished at TMH, he got sent back to a rehab center behind Capital Medical that is Capital Medical, and then he's going to be released sometime around the 8th of next month to come back to Lanark. Now, the question is, do we not have a rehab center in this area?
Depends on the need. It all depends on the need. And I don't know where he is exactly, but rehab centers are different. They provide different services. And like Encompass, sometimes we can say, hey, the patient needs to go to Encompass. They'll go to TMH or Capital Regional or wherever, then they go to Encompass. Encompass is an inpatient medical rehab. So that's kind of like a stepping stone. If they need to come to us, they can still qualify for our swing days after. So it just depends on the needs. Arabella, as now, it was St. James, Arabella, now it's Carabel Health and Rehab. They just changed hands again. And so they do provide some of those services, but they can pretty much provide the same services that we can provide here in our swing bed program. It just depends on the needs, the insurance, the length of stay, because ours are generally around 20 days, depending on insurance as well. But I don't know. See, if he was picked up and transferred from home to Tallahassee by our EMS, he may be one of those, or either James didn't report it, maybe it fell before then, or Dan may have that information as well.
So I guess the question becomes, how do we follow up on those situations that when they're transferring between hospitals and getting into a situation of rehab? I mean, I think the person's spouse was just lost as far
Right, and I think that the spouses have a lot to deal with. As caregivers have a very important role, and they have a lot to deal with when they're transferred or when they're in any medical situation with their family. But if the only way we can deal with that is, like I said, if James reports that information to us as a transfer that never touched our facility or our grounds, but was transported by Weems EMS, then he provides that information, and then Dan looks into that and touches base with case management. And depending on the facility, Lori Franklin can get into those charts and kind of look into that for us.
So he's like
Okay.
the liaison.
Yeah, so Dan,
Yes.
Dan is our swing bed coordinator. He's been in that position,
It's like a patient care coordinator. Yes.
but put him over swing bed to try to increase those numbers. And he's been in that position, I think, since January of last year. But he was learning a lot, and so kind of now we've got it all figured out better. And he's here 5 days a week, 8-hour days, and he's been traveling on Fridays, but this week we changed that to Wednesday because Friday we do all our care plan conferences with patients and physicians and therapy and families on Mondays. And Friday there's some stuff to clear up, and there's potential discharge dates on Friday. So now we moved his travel day to Wednesdays. He was also missing some people. People are out on Fridays and take a half day. So I'm hoping that'll improve that as well. But it definitely, I believe, has improved numbers. Just being there face to face, taking them some donuts, some bagels, and them seeing you. So I think that's helping.
Courtney, I was coming out of the hospital. I was here for something, honest paper for something, I guess about a month ago, and stepped outside, and there was a fella out there hitting a pitching wedge,
Yes.
and so of course I yelled out the window. I pulled up. I said, "Hey, checking in the hospital ain't gonna stop you from shanking that wedge, buddy." So anyway, we talked and everything, and his father was in here. He said it was a great experience.
Yeah, they were
He said-
great. They were a great family. They were great caretakers.
He
So
said this is one of the most. He said this has been a godsend to me. You live on the island, I believe.
Yes, they have a house in Island, and I
Yeah.
believe
He
in
said this is my
Tallahassee, too.
father was sitting out there, and me and his father got laughing about how terrible he hit that wedge. His father told him, "Let me get out of this hospital. I'll show you how to hit a wedge."
Yes, so they would park his father. It was actually his father-in-law, but he called him his father. So right outside my window every day in the sunshine. And I was like, oh, I'm so envious. He's sitting out there soaking up the rays, and I'm in here. And then he would just
That's
swing.
just
But
good
it was
positive-
great.
That's positive.
Right,
vibes.
kind of like the activity room. You just got to get them out, get them a little more engaged, outside
He
in the
was sitting
sun.
outside,
Sit
yeah.
at the picnic tables and eat lunch if you want. You know, we have those opportunities with staff and with Dan being here too.
But
that
that he said it's just I can park. I want to play park. I can come here, blah, 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 you know. He said, it's so nice to be here. The nurses are so nice to do it.
Yeah.
Kudos there.
Thank
First.
you.
Courtney, real quick too, for Chris's purposes, Lori Franklin, heard her mention Lori. Lori is that liaison.
Okay.
So she helps, Lori actually works out of the Chipley, Florida hospital, that we support over in Northwest Florida. And she helps coordinate and helps, is that liaison that really is, as Courtney mentioned, is able to work with case managers at PMH. They really dive in and look, try to identify patients. She helps support Chipley, she helps support here, Perry, Florida, Doctors Memorial in Perry, Florida, and the Calvin Davis Hospital in Youngstown. But she helps coordinate, and is the on-site
Right.
individual.
These
that's
eyes and
working.
ears.
Yeah, Dan's here and she's out there, but she has access to systems that we don't have.
Right,
You know,
right.
so we can say, hey, Lori, you know, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
patient.
yeah.
Yeah, and then she can dig in and then she can say, this is the case manager, call this person directly. So it cuts a
And
bunch
she
of
does,
steps
yeah,
out.
she does those lunch and learns. And
Yeah,
so
so we go to
she-
TMH,
she
do lunch
does
and learn.
come to TMH a lot. They turn over so many case managers. Plus
It's
case
constant.
managers. They turn over. So she's there in front, trying to constantly remind them who we are.
Yeah, she's a huge help. She's an Alliant employee, but she works, you know, well. I mean, we talked to her. Well, Dan probably talks to her every day. Before Dan took over, I was talking to her every day, and we still email and text all the time. Yeah, yeah, but it definitely helps. I mean, she's definitely improved my numbers there. So, I think other than that, all I had to say was staffing. I think last time I told you I was training 2 new RN night shifts. So 2 full-time night shifts are on staff, and then another one came on full-time hours. The RN, she starts orienting on Monday night, and then as soon as she transitions out of her other job, she says that she's going to be full-time nights for us as well. So it's like some little fairy out there flying. Yeah, got Christina have her. We drilled that, I think, last time. She's a super strong nurse. She is great to have in the ER. So, we're thankful. So, as Conrad said, things are much better for staffing. So now we're really pushing those doctors to admission.
Right.
So, and we've been doing reports on that, providing it to Dr. Conrad as well. Percentages that are being admitted from different doctors, from different shifts, diagnosis codes, level 5s, things like that. So I think that helps. Questions for me?
Anybody got anything else? Thank you, Courtney. Oh, I got one thing. Your nurses, are you getting, didn't we have a couple people? Didn't we get a couple more nurses or?
Yes, we got a couple more of those night shift RNs.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's what I understand.
Yes, so we do, and we got another one starting on Monday oriented.
Your staffing is pretty good, right?
My staffing is currently better than it has been since COVID.
Okay, great, great.
Very
I want to mention something while Courtney's here. I hope we're kind of reviewing what we're paying our folks here, particularly. I want, the nursing staff. We need to stay on top of that, David. We need to look at that all the time. I hope the board agrees. We don't pay the folks like close to what they're getting. They'll go somewhere else to lose good staff.
Yeah,
That's just
and
the way it
we're
works.
close. We're close.
We are?
I'm told by 2 employees that.
Except for you, right?
You want me to
I
discuss
would've
that now?
See, I would've.
And last week you told me I said too many words.
I would have threw that in if I'd have been up there. Except for me, I'm taking away. Thank you, Courtney. All right. Next is the clinic report. Susie Bustrick. I can't
Every
never
time,
pronounce your
every
name. I'm
time.
sorry. Where I was raised at, there wasn't no names like that. Susie. My wife's name's Susie, so I got that.
Good morning, everybody. It's just short and sweet on our end as far as the clinics are. We have our new phone system in place throughout the hospital and clinics, and everybody's set up for it. It's wonderful to have. There will be some getting used to for everybody in all systems is that you're not getting a person picking up every 3 lines that are coming in. You're getting one line coming in, and people will be getting messages directly, just like every other medical facility in the area we're getting a message to. So,
Are you happy with it?
so far, so good. We
Okay.
have some little tweaks to make sure that we're counting. We're very aware of how many calls are coming in or not coming in. So we're making sure that IT stays on top
Okay.
of it. They've made all the adjustments.
Okay.
They're doing a great job too. We are getting the iPads that we talked about before for front desk registration, so that will help the patients not having to sign so many documents. It'll cut down on the amount of paper that we consume. It'll just make the process a lot easier. Make sure that patients try to sign in on the patient portal. That will be another open communication for them to talk to us. Everybody is slowly getting on the technology bandwagon, but in our area, we have to make sure that we service everybody in every form of size. We're very aware of that. Some more insurances have been dropped by TMH and by Assumption Sacred Heart, so that's bringing more patients to the clinic. And Suzette and Dana and Amanda are all doing a great job getting a lot of positive feedback about their care with the patients. They're spending a lot of good quality time with our patients, so that's a nice thing. We'll be getting ready for the tourism to come our way, so we'll be working with TMH marketing so that we can get some bullets out there to the tourists, some good information about where we're located at so people can find us. And then I think Mr. Walker made mention, or will be mentioning, that we're working on a grant for clinic setting that hopefully we can get some funding to do providing medical mobile services so that we can bring a van or some type of vehicle out into further points like the island or alligator points. But it's a work in progress. But that will also offer us to have some telehealth medicine for psychiatric, which is what I really like to see in our area. So we're working on it, but we'll update you as we go. And then last but not least, I just have that no-show fee I talked about. That's going to be in place. Every patient will sign a form. It'll be posted as well, but for everybody coming in, they'll sign the form so they're made aware of it. It's
rudimentary, but that's the way to make sure everybody's been told that, this is our policy, because it's a matter of several $1,000s of revenue that we're missing monthly, let alone just patients we could have been seeing in those times that we're using for the next shift. And that'll go into, I was gonna do April 1st, but we're gonna push it out to April 15th, so it gives people time to be familiar.
Well, what am I missing in this equation? I think I'm missing something.
What do you
And that
mean?
is, most of our care is, insurance not gonna cover it. So if you're gonna charge a $25 cancellation fee, how are we gonna enforce that?
Well, it'll be on their bill, it'll be on their statement, and we'll be working with Heather about it, how we do it, but it's gonna be that they have to pay that $25 before they can make another appointment,
A second appointment?
a second appointment. Now, if it's gonna impede their care, of course, we're gonna see the patient. But it's gonna be, there are circumstances that come up, severe weather, medical emergencies with families, but it's a matter of respecting providers' time and making availability for other patients to come in. And that's across the board in all medical facilities. I mean, $25 is rather low compared to what would you like to see happen? I mean, what do you think?
I just say, you can't get blood out of a turnip, right?
You can't, but we have to start somewhere, right? And I think that that's part of letting patients know to respect the provider's time. Because we always have that attitude in the community that, oh, it's just the clinics, or, it's just, I'll be there whenever I can get there. They're never going to understand. These are providers that are primary care providers that provide a great service. And just because we might be in a small community building, look older, that doesn't mean that they don't provide quality care. And I might have somebody on the books for a while. I'm trying to get in emergency patients. That's not the problem. But if somebody else happened to need that time, I couldn't get them in because I'm already double booked, and then nobody shows up last minute. That's care that's more important to me, is that we're getting enough people in that need to be seen. But also making sure that people respect our providers do a really good job, and they need to respect the idea that they are the provider.
Are we gonna get a report on that $25 fee, how many has been assessed? So
Well, I'm
what
sure,
that's-
yeah, we'll have to put that in the billing system, yeah. I mean, this is
That's-
new to us.
That's
so-
standard practice.
It is standard.
My
practice.
veterinarian,
Like I said
the veterinarian,
before,
I
I went
know.
to a provider up in Panama City, and her bill was $110.
How much?
$110.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it made me pay attention.
Yeah, well,
Right?
well, somewhere people need to have some personal responsibility. I
Right,
mean,
and that's just it, and
I
it's
get
just a small,
a little
soft
tired
road
of-
to get that responsibility. And now that we have a great new phone system, there's no excuse to not leave a message somewhere. Or
Yeah,
not
I mean,
sign up for the portal
take a
and
little-
contact us that way.
pick up the phone and say, I can't come, right? What is our, when, 24 hours, 48?
We're doing 24 hours. Yeah.
That's,
Anything else? I mean, is there?
No,
No, I can't. No, you can't, because we are in an area that there is indigent care, and there
Right,
is-
that's
right.
the key word.
It's a lot, indigent care, right? But there has to be some starting point where people are giving us their time and sticking to it. And it also, and to me, it keeps people committed to their healthcare too, if they show up and they come in and they start to do those. Because most of our patients in this area are people that have chronic diseases. They have, diabetes and hypertension, and they're coming in, or should be coming in, every 26 months to stay on top of their medication. And just to see that we're doing well. And like I said, they do a great job of keeping those patients compliant, but that's another way to do it. If you're going to show up for your appointment, then you're staying compliant with your health care.
I think just signing that form will encourage a lot of people to if they got to counsel out.
And it's on a case-by-case basis too. I mean, if somebody calls and says, hey, Susie, my mom was put in the nursing home.
Sure.
I dropped my phone in the toilet. Of course. That's common sense things, but we have to start somewhere because we are growing and we want to grow. And that's one of the ways we can try to invest in providers' time until we get more providers. And even still, but I think our providers do a great job for this county. They really do. And I'm
Well, no, I think you gotta be reminded.
Yeah.
We give them printouts when they leave for their appointments. We go ahead and make their next annual appointment for the next year. We, we're proactive with what we do. So their employee isn't that much of an excuse to do it other than just don't care. More than 50% don't care.
Lizzie, are we getting the co-pays up front?
Yes, nobody goes in the back to it.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, we need to do that. I mean, that's
Not
something.
even you.
No, I don't. I did one day, I did. I tell you what, I did, I guess I didn't, I thought I made my co-pay and got a notice. I said, I made that, do it away. About the third time, they were come repossess my house. I said, I better pay that. I did some, I got my attention a little bit. I thought I'd paid it, but anyway.
We let people know when they come in for on their co-pays or any balances that are crazy, or if they're in, we just talk to them privately, if there's a collection balance that they may not be aware of, then it's changed.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Anything else, any questions?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Forward.
Thank you. Okay. EMS report. I don't know.
James is not here.
How we doing on hiring, staffing with them? Any headway? Okay, good.
It should cut down on the OT.
Yes, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the staff,
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, he and I were saying that Barry that's flying around and seeing him, we're super thankful.
That goes and comes, though. We're liable to lose 4 next week, though. I mean, that's the way it works. So.
Right now, we're doing fairly well.
I don't know what to do about that. Just keep beating it. I mean, but okay. Mr. Gibson, plant operations update.
Good morning.
Morning.
Kristen, welcome aboard. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
All right.
He's going to ask for money now. I guarantee you. I know it's going to be out like that. He will ask for money. I can tell you that, right? He's buttering you up now. Don't let him do it.
That's right.
We have ordered some new flooring for the 2 front restrooms over Weems East. That is in. I'm waiting on them to give me a date on the weekend so I can go over there and we'll get that installed. We've resolved that water issue over there with the toilets and everything. They've got that new backflow system put in. Everything's working great. We're
Good.
backed up. We have recently changed pest control companies. Low Nose Pest Control, we've been with them for 9-10 years. And it just seemed like they weren't doing what we needed them to do. We were having more bugs around all the facilities. So I called in Orkin, and they have come up here. We've got a contract with them, and by going with them to do the same thing and a little bit more, I've saved us $45 a month.
Okay.
And they have also, as I knew that we had a problem over at Carabel with termites. We do. We have some subterranean termites under that building by the air conditioning units. So we've already put that work in process. It's taken care of. They have gone over, trenched around the building, put in what they need to put in the termite spikes all around the building. I have a layout of everything if anybody wants to see it. I don't have it with me, but I can send that out. And so that's going to be, they'll come by twice a year for the next 5 years and check on that. With the price of it was $5,800. But it's there. It was going to be about $7,000 or $8,000. They gave us another option to do the yearly plan, come back for 5 years, about $600 a month, and every year it would increase about 10% for them to come back and check it twice a year. Well, it ended up being about $8,000 something, so David and I chose the one time, and they'll come do it for 5 years, and there's no more cost to it. And they'll give us an update every time they go.
Was the air conditioning system, water and drainage?
The water.
That's what causes subterranean?
That's what they're saying, and it was only in one little place, and that we had a little moisture. All the pipes right there are wrapped and insulated, but you know how the condensation drips off of it and everything.
It was right there, and it was only in one spot. They found no other issues in the building. It's just that one place. We had them coming in the building right there in that procedure room in the corner, and they weren't coming in to eat. They were coming in to die, is what you were telling me. Is they were forcing those workers out because there was too many in there, is the way they described it to me.
Yeah, they would come in.
Yeah, oh, they were,
Or something about
they were
termites,
all
yeah.
over the place. You could come in and you could see them dying. And we just went around with a broom and a vacuum cleaner, cleaning them up, spraying. But, you know, when it came again, and it was kind of like a seasonal thing, so I thought, yeah, we better investigate this, stop this now. Because the framing is wood over there.
You get a colony of chameleons there, all those lizards.
Oh,
You won't have.
You won't have any. Oh, no,
those
I know
termites.
about that. No, you won't. I have that issue in my backyard. Yeah, you get them out, they just sit there and eat them out of the wood. Yeah. A lot cheaper too. Okay, as Susie said, we do have the new phone systems activated, and of course, as new stuff, we do have a few kinks and, issues with them. But we're working with staff to take care of those issues. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go around to all the departments today and talk with them and find out what, if any, if they are having any issues with it. And then I'm going to have Kevin Price, IT, I'm going to bring it to his attention and let him resolve these issues. I think the biggest issue we had was the rollover after hours at 11:30 at night. It was not going to the proper place, but that has been resolved. Kevin is taking care of that already. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I met with Jonathan Ramirez from the Florida Division of Emergency Management. He's a historian for older buildings and everything. He was here to help us try to get that grant to replace all the windows in the facility and over here. And like he told me, he's not the last word, but he writes a grant where most of the time we get it. So we've been sitting there waiting for him for another 5 years now. So hopefully we'll get that done. I met with Robert Nixon from Duke Energy on the surge protection. I'm waiting on, don't think anything about this guy's last name. His name is Kobe Sparkman.
Oh, golly, what a name. Is that his real
I
name?
know. Oh, really? I reread it again. But anyway, he's the coordinator to help us figure out what surge and where it needs to go. So he's going to call me and give me a date. He can come, and I'll have my electrician here, so we'll know, what we need to do, and then they'll give us a price to get that taken care of, so we protect all this new equipment that we're getting. The generator for Weems East has been damaged. When they were trying to set it, the fork on the lift tilted and it rolled off. And so what Dave Rice, he's the contractor for BGM, he has already ordered a new one. He's going to let me know as soon as possible his time frame when it gets here. They're continuing to work on everything. They have just set our surge, the transfer switches box. He's already set that in place. So as soon as they get a word on it, they'll start setting. And then we'll move on from there. It's probably still the same time frame, 16 to 18 weeks. I met with Lynn Wilder. She's the executive director for Keep Franklin County View. They're looking for places to put out fruit and nut trees all over the county to, for people, just regular people to walk up and pick fruit and nuts. So I've offered up a place right out here and possibly another place over here. Doesn't interfere with us at all. People can walk up and, pick the fruit if they want to. So I've been meeting with them monthly now. So I don't know when we're going to get the trees or when we're going to try to plant them. Our goal after we get them planted is to water them and, just take care of them. And then hopefully they live. But anyway, we're trying to work with them, as a community service. That really is pretty much it. We'll be moving Mr. Walker over to Weems West the first part of May, getting ready for the new CT. We're still on board for...
Explain that to our new board member, what's going on here, Greg.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. What we're doing, we're getting a new, we're going to get the CT. We're gonna get rid of this monster out here. Yes, finally.
You ever taken a ride back there? I did.
Oh, yeah.
My blood pressure went up.
Given a lot of rides back there, too.
Hey, my blood pressure went up when I got through getting my head checked back there. You know, go ahead.
So what we're doing, we're gonna move it into David's office and take over the CFO office as a control room. And so with that being said, we're gonna have to move him out. So the only place we have right now is over the clinic in the large room, which we're taking over Susie's break room.
I'm running out of a set.
Hey, that CT machine's done its job.
Oh, yeah, it has. But we're upgrading to 128 slice. It's got, Brian has wanted all these other add-ons and everything. We've accommodated that, so it's gonna be really nice when we get it in. Yeah.
Patient care. That's improvement on patient care.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we've upgraded, we've added new equipment in the mammo room. That process has started taking off really well. With ultrasound, we just got a new one of those, new machine. We do have a backup also. X-ray, we just did a complete renovation about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That whole area. So, yeah, we're moving up, getting us some new equipment to take care of these patients.
Yeah.
And you put new equipment on the EMS.
Patient care.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, James is ordering a new truck.
Any board members got any other questions? Okay.
I don't know if it's, excuse me, I don't know if it pertains to your area, but Susie might know. Do we have any type of advertisement or placard or anything like that that goes into hotel rooms or rental houses?
That's what we're working on, making the cards, yeah. That you can put in, right cards that you can put into different places.
Because you've cleaned, you've worked very hard to clean this place up. And pictures say 1,000 or so, 10,000. And if you had something, if you don't have it, but if you do have it, great, that would advertise Weems with regards to pictures of the shows its accommodations, the cleanliness, and the phone number to call if you've got a problem that was easy accessible instead of me having to call somebody. I'm new to the area, I'm calling down the front desk, or I'm trying. I don't know. Do you have something like that?
No, I know we used to have,
We did actually, fairly recently, maybe 6 months ago or something, put out some rack cards with the, I think with like Anchor, the different real estate agencies. It might be some of the Chamber too. I think Chamber. Like the picture of the beach and it says something like vacations, something about emergencies on vacations. It's got, doesn't have pictures of the facility. It's got our contact information, our services listed, things like that. I have one in my office, I can grab and show you.
Well, do we know if they're out there?
Well, they were out there. Now, I don't know if they, we had them made and Dan took them to the facility. Now, I don't know if they're out of them or not, so we can follow up on that.
I would, summer's coming.
but, you know, get back to what you're asking.
Yeah.
It dawned on me, several years ago, we used to have, for the beds, or housekeeping, we did have a little fold up that we would sit on the bed, like it reminded me back when you said hotel. We used to put them on the beds, and then we had a number on there to call if there was anything they needed. I think that would probably go a long way. You know, I know family's not always there, it's most times there's nurses bringing them in and putting them in bed, but it would be there, so when family did come visit, it could be on the feeding tray.
As long as they get there.
Well, yes, yes.
House
that-
services
yeah.
are-
But we can certainly, I mean, we can
You can
certainly.
provide
do that.
it.
Yeah.
We'll follow up on that.
Yeah, we sure will.
Swing fence working, so this ought to work.
Absolutely. No problem.
You got anything else?
Anything else?
I want y'all to know, it's March 27th, 2025, and Craig Gibson did not ask for any money. So let's put that down. Let's write it down now. Yeah. You remember this, and you brought us good luck. Keep it, please. No, it takes money, and I want to mention too, right quick, whoever that's doing the maintenance, the yard work, it looks good out there.
It's actually Dustin Putnam from over in Terreville. And
He-
he does our clinic over there also.
He's doing it's looking very, very good. It's a good,
Every
just
2 weeks,
boom.
And he goes over there every 2 weeks also.
It's sure looking good out there
Yeah,
now.
it is. Maintain.
Thank you. All right, next, the CFO report, Mr. Bowling. Mr. Bowling is with Alliance Management, the management service. He is you're kind of the acting CFO, or the other fellow is, or you? You're corporate.
Yeah, you've heard Brian mention, Jason Honor. Jason does a lot of hands-on work here, but I'm blind, and the chief operating officer with Blind Management Services. So, just a couple things before I get started into the financials. I did want to just mention. Yeah, a couple things I just want to mention before we get started. And we appreciate Brian and what Brian Hall's review of our rigs, and just want to comment that from our view, from our standpoint, I mean that's important for us to see a financial audit and financial audit performed. Again, that ensures that the information that we are providing on a month-to-month basis to the board and to the county, that we feel comfortable that the controls, the steps, all the work that the team does to get these financials prepared every month is as accurate as can be from our viewpoint on a month-to-month basis. But it's always great to see that year-end audit, year-end results come in and share that news with us. And then also, when you look at how the year-end finished last year and what he audited, and the changes and so forth, I know the quantity of adjustments went down year over year. I know the financial position of the hospital improved year over year, and I think the bottom line impact from what was shared with the board for that year-end results versus what he finalized, was within reason as well once you account for the adjustments that they did. So I think that helps us tremendously, and we appreciate what he was able to share with us. In your packet, we do have the February results for the hospital for February 2025. You will notice, and I'll walk through these and certainly ask any questions along the way. When you look at the hospital's bottom line, and I always like to reference the bottom line, then kind of start from the top and work our way down. When you look at the hospital's overall finish for the month alone, and again, this is, I'll give a moment for everybody to look to it.
You looking at the balance sheet, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to look at the overall income statement
All right.
first. If you'll allow it. Chris will be able to find the. Yeah, it'll be the comparative income statement. It's in two different ways it's presented. One is under a landscape format that's got consolidated numbers, which includes EMS and the clinics, and we also have the detail as well. We have EMS broken out separately. And even before I get started, I want to mention that too. We got EMS broken out separately. We are going to work to get the clinics broken out separately as well. Both clinics individualized as well, so we can continue to monitor and share and transparently share this information on a month-to-month basis. But when you look at the consolidated income statement for February 2025, on the left-hand side is the current month, the right-hand side is year-to-date. It's a 9/30 fiscal year in facilities, so 5 months into the current fiscal year. Okay, so consolidated net income for February of 2025, the hospital did finish overall from a consolidated standpoint at a loss of $8,800, so just nearly a break even. However, that was an improvement versus a budgeted loss of $54,000. And from a year-to-date perspective, we're sitting at at $460,000 net income consolidated loss, which is in excess of the $277,000 budgeted loss. so forth. And I know that, as I mentioned earlier, and as Brian stated, operating a hospital, profitability in this state and with EMS involvement, is challenging for the organization. So just walking through, the numbers from a revenue standpoint through expenditures to how we arrive at that loss. When you look at for the month alone and look at revenues were down. When I say down, I'm looking at comparison versus budget. Revenues were down below budget by 174,000. Inpatient revenues, were down 174,000. That is largely driven from the decreases in volumes that we experienced from a budgetary standpoint. Our swing bed program, and Courtney mentioned this earlier, February was down. We did miss by 63,000 in revenues from a swing bed standpoint, but I think, again, the encouragement I heard earlier and what we see from the feedback that we see from March, we're seeing a nice return of swing bed activity from the hospital. Med-surg, which is the acute side, non-swing bed activity, missed by 74,000. And then certainly those ancillaries that are associated with those inpatient stays contributed to the additional 37,000 in revenue as well. Outpatient revenue, again, was below budget as well by 106. Categorized in the outpatient, I mentioned this, I'd like to point this out, categorized in outpatient is our ER activity. Dr. Conrad mentioned the ER does stay busy, but you do have times when the volumes do ebb and flow, and so the ER did see a volume decline in this from a revenue standpoint. The labs and pharmaceuticals that typically follow suit with ER activity was also down. Pharmacy missed by 56,000 and lab missed by 26,000. Again, all of those being contributing factors to the outpatient revenue being below budget by 106. As Susie just proudly mentioned as well, the clinic cell volume has seen an uptick, has seen a lot of improvement. So we do see the rural health clinics that did exceed budget by 11 or just under $12,000 from a revenue standpoint. And our EMS actually exceeded their budget by $600 as well from a revenue standpoint for the transports and runs that they experience. Just moving down and commenting on a few of the expenditures and so forth as it relates to the month's performance. Salaries did come in below budget overall, and these consolidated. So overall, salaries did come in below budget by 30,000. Certainly, the volume fluctuations that I just mentioned, salaries being a variable, typically a variable expense when volumes are down. He does a really good job here monitoring staffing and flexing where they can, where they can appropriately. So we did see med-surg contributing to, on the acute side, contributing to those decreases in salaries. From that standpoint, we saw respiratory and the rural health went down as well. However, I do want to mention that EMS was 8,000 over budget for the month. So consolidated 30,000 below, but inside of that, when you look at EMS being part of that, they were 8,000 over their budget.
Is that in salaries, or is that in, what category was that in?
That it is in salaries, it is in, which does include overtime as well. And I think as Courtney mentioned earlier, I know James can't be present today due to the employee that they lost. But I do think from a staffing standpoint, he has seen staffing members return to where he needs to be able to staff. That should, and we will comment about this every month, it should start to bring down some overtime. It should start to bring down some orientation-related hours and so forth that EMS experiences when you do onboard your staff. Just a few other expenditures as I walk down the income statement. Supplies were below budget as well by 47,000. I want to touch on the three largest variances, salaries, supplies, and services. Supplies were below 47. Again, that's a variable related to expenditure where volumes being down, particularly in our inpatient area.
Volumes down, supply should be down.
Supply
Right.
should follow
That
suit.
should correlate, right.
That's correct. And within supplies, it's always good to share too. Pharmaceuticals roll up under supplies as well. So you see those volumes down, it should follow suit. Services, purchase services were below budget as well by 26,000. Again, some of that is related to, our lab equipment, lab analyzer utilizes reagent for that. And that is the contract that we have in place to utilize the lab analyzer. And when the volumes are down, some of that follows as well. Just looking at the non-operating related revenues, you move down the income statement, and you'll see that it did exceed budget by just under $2,000. Inside of that component, though, things to point out, the 340B program, the drug savings program is included in that category, and we did see that 340B program did exceed budget by $29,000, so there's strong performance there from that program, which again, it is one of those rural, or it is one of those programs that that Weems, being a critical access hospital, is able to participate in. I think as we've heard in the previous presentation from Baker Tilly in the last county meeting, in discussions around the REH component, right now 340B is not allowed from the REH standpoint. So it's one of those areas, one of those programs that would go away, along with swing bed, along with inpatient activity, if the hospital were to choose to go that direction as an REH. So just wanted to mention that because it did exceed budget for $29,000 in February. The differential.
Just one thing while we're still on that. I think Dr. Conrad also made a statement in his address that if we were to lose swing beds and go to the other category from critical access, he felt that that would be a negative impact on the surrounding community as well, and other facilities that we would have to transport patients out of here within a 24-hour period. And I just want to make note that that was one thing that he was concerned about.
Who makes that determination as far as the swing bed and the 340 programs for REH? Is that a federal or is that a state?
It's federal. It's a federal statute.
Federal.
Yeah, it's federal. So, and
They're giving you the money. They're the ones giving you the money. So
it's a federal program, federal statute based on the and so that would have to change. I will say that there are a couple of bills that were in the previous administration, and I'm assuming are carrying forward both House and Senate that did have a component of the REH including 340B. But again, I don't know where that stands today as far as moving forward. But it's a federal statute, so that would have to be changed to at the federal level.
Could you, for the next meeting, could you bring back some information from Blue as to what their lobbyists are doing with regards to pushing it for the REH model?
Yeah. What I can bring back is certainly for the hospital association too, what FHA is doing, and then other industry related groups as well, the American Hospital Association as well. They're supporting.
And while you're on this, these expenditures and so forth, when is the development of the next fiscal year's budget, and who does that? I think you can.
Well, the team here at the hospital certainly will be part of that
so
process.
So the hospital is involved in the development of the
Absolutely.
operating budget. And it's broken down in monthly units, so that have we gotten to the process of where our managers of each of the sections have that?
We're going to make sure that is part of the process, certainly going forward. I think from a visibility standpoint, I know this was mentioned before as well. From a visibility standpoint, with the current financial platform that we have in place, it's challenging. I think everybody echoed this. It's challenging and cumbersome to be able to get granular level detail. When I say granular, I'm talking department level detail. We are, and this is something Alliant is supporting as well. We are looking at we actually had developed what we call a strategic relationship with help build and help design standardization. But it's a financial platform that will, in essence, lack of better words, bolt onto the CPSI TrueBridge system. They do work with CPSI TrueBridge, but it'll be a financial reporting platform that department leaders will will be able to have access to their individual departmental statements. They will be able to see their revenues, their expenditures. They will be able to be part of that budgetary process as well with that. Now, will that be live before we get into this next budget stage? More than likely not. So, but we will involve the department leaders the best we can with the financial numbers and information that we have them part of that process.
It appears that we're making progress as far as activity, inpatient, so forth and so on, but at some point, I think it's about time we start putting the budget process more at local level and enhancing the managers so that they are not only held accountable, but they know what they have planned for in the future, like they have some ownership of the department.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, we're certainly going to make sure that is part of the process this year as well, and going forward. And if we can put that financial platform in place, that will help. But even prior to that, we're going to instill that.
Don't get me wrong. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last year or 2 years that I've been on this board. It's slow, but it's paying off. So.
I will say same to mergers and stuff as well for departments. Mr. Walker and Ms. Burke with just a random department of one. Mr. Walker, John, and I had a meeting a week and a half ago to go over those. So it's in the works already. It's slowly getting there.
And we'll have what we call departmental operation reviews, DORs. We'll reference that in an acronym standpoint, but department operating reviews, where they'll have their opportunity to review them from a live perspective as well. We also review at a monthly, called a MOR, monthly operating review, where we look at that roll-on as well in preparation before we bring it forward to the board or to the county or whoever else wants to be part of that overall.
David, I was looking at net revenue. It's kind of amazing how February is always a down month. And I think, if I remember right, did we have to shut down the hospital a couple of days, cold weather? Was it February that had the cold weather,
Yes.
Yeah, the real cold snow or whatever.
Jan and Feb, it kind of,
Yeah, well, whatever, but
you got to lower.
I just looked, February, I was just concerned about this, but February just seems to be all, April, May, 2 great months. You would think June, July would be up there a little bit, but I guess it's too hot for people to get out and get in accidents or something. I don't know.
Well,
it's funny how they all pretty well run in the same way there,
And I know you're looking at the graph from an actual standpoint, and again,
The graph shows you.
Just mention that February too is a shorter date calendar year. So naturally, sometimes, from a budgetary standpoint, you obviously account for that. But when you look at expenditures, then you've got contract-related expenditures that you're paying the same amount regardless if you have a 28-day, 29-day year or 31-day month. You're still going to pay that same service fee regardless of the days of the week, but your revenue generation is down because of the day. And just a couple of other things, again, as I mentioned at the start, you do see EMS as emergency management services. We do have EMS broken out separately. We need to always provide that separately, so if there is clear visibility and transparency related to EMS performance. Brian Hall gave a great summary related to EMS and the operations there as well, and the challenges that it does bring, but still, needless to say, a much needed service. But also, we are going to start breaking up clinics so we can have that visibility as well, not just clinics consolidated, but clinics separately, so we break out the 2 clinics so we can see that performance. I know from Susan's standpoint, and I'm working with Athena, I know there is a practice performance report. She has seen those before as well. It's got a lot of information inside of it, and actually breaking out the provider level and so forth. So it's a lot of great information, good information for us to share. Just a note on EMS, though, just to mention again, the revenue did exceed, as I said earlier, just under $3,025 from a budgetary standpoint. Their operating expenditures were up 8.2 or 8,200. Again, salaries being the largest component of that as well. from a fiscal year-to-date standpoint, you know, we're 5 months into the fiscal year when you look at February's results. And the total operating expenditures did exceed budget about 56, with salaries carrying the load of that currently 57. And just referenced earlier about the staffing model and the staffing onboarding of new staff that James has been able to bring on board, and we're going to continue to keep that in front of everyone.
You're talking about 2448, 93.
Just the model that they reverted back to we discussed several weeks ago. They reverted back to the previous model, but they had a lot of turnover staff. They did adjust wages to adjust rates to bring rates more in line in recognition of the previous staffing structure. So that will in turn, hopefully, right, targeted to bring down overtime and retain and attract new staff here. So yeah, I think he's nearly fully staffed up and so forth. So we'll continue to monitor that and bring that forward. Just moving over now quickly to give a few highlights on the balance sheet. There's no other questions on the operating performance on which on balance sheet perspective. Cash did finish 2020 February 2025, I should say, 2.2. From a standpoint, when you look at it year over year, that is up in cash performance. You know, one of the things I do want to mention, and it'll be based on the board's recommendation earlier during the audit process, we will work with car rigs. We will work on establishing what we call cash-related reserve. As Brian mentioned, the reserve for the dish lift is in the liabilities. However, from a cash standpoint, we do not have that earmarked per se from a balance sheet, but we will, once we're able to get that percentage and determine that, we'll bring that forward. And what we will do on this report, you'll see a line item that will say board designated cash, and we'll place that amount on this sheet so we always will see that is the board designated cash related to the back of the dish lift program. Receivables, I won't go through each line here, but I do want to mention on receivables, the AR days are up, which has contributed to some of the cash on hand decreasing slightly because, again, cash is coming in slower. We do have a couple particular payers, Centene and Sunshine, that has presented some challenges. I know the team's working through those challenges. I won't get into too many technical weeds there, but the taxonomy, which is a code, a unique identifier code that's assigned based on the area of the work that's being performed when the patient is being billed. There's some issues and concerns with those two payers on recognizing and so forth. So they're working through that process, and we do expect to get paid for those services, but it is slowed down the cash, it has slowed down the AR, so we don't see it being a major risk as far as not getting paid. It's just working through those challenges and process. And I always point out within our AR too, again, Brian mentioned this earlier about uncompensated care that's provided. You saw the breakdown in our care rates. We've been fortunate to have, and I say unfortunate, it is for every rural facility. You see a lot of uninsured, underinsured, and that is the challenge to cash related to those services.
How do you propose to try to segregate or track the effects of those on the processing of our receivables?
I guess to make a general statement, I don't see that we have any challenges that I know of yet related to doges in effect. The only area I think that what we see potentially coming from that is, the federal government does utilize, again, this is just me speaking about this, but they obviously utilize what is called, I'll use this as an example from Medicare. CMS utilizes third-party contractors called MAC, or Medicare administrative contractors. And First Coast is that Medicare administrative contractor. So CMS has a contract with the MAC. The MAC provides overview services as far as reviewing the cost report and those types of activities. So is that process going to get more cumbersome, more challenging? I don't know, but there are, I think all we suspect, some audit processes and so forth may get ratcheted up another notch or two to help justify and support needs. But as far as to answer your question, I'm aware, and it's really at hospital operating level here is going to impact us from receiving stuff.
Well, from what I'm trying to get to is, if the inputs coming from the federal government to their processors are slowed down, or do we remit directly to their processors?
We remit directly to the processors.
So bodies on the federal level really don't have their fingers in that process. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I follow. I'm not technically sure that the mechanics of the body process as far as who's touching what, as far as the processing of those claims and so forth. I mean, we can say that we've seen an interruption from that, and it gets submitted electronically. So I don't know the answer to the question technically about bodies of folks decreases in the resources. I don't know if that's going to.
If you have third-party processing, then what part does the federal government actually play in the process? I mean, if our claims are not going to them, they're going to the third party right now. Okay, so you can increase or decrease staff on the federal level and should have no effect on this. Is that a correct statement?
Answer it that I don't really know. Yeah, just to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know how the federal government works with the MAGs and determines if I have 100 folks here on the federal level, I drop to 50. How's that going to impact the MAG? I don't know. The third party standpoint. Just answer it honestly. I wouldn't.
I got a greater number of contracts I got to manage on the federal level. Processing should not take effect.
Should not. But the federal, I'll add to this, that the federal does direct what needs to be the reason behind that third party. So the point is, if federal has statutes, the federal has regulations and policies in place, the third party has to administer for them. And if that body drops head count, this body's got to justify itself more as well.
Somebody picks up the slack. Okay. I just want to be able to say later on, when the receivables start building up,
If it's having an impact on
okay,
that, we'll
is
certainly.
it an impact from the federal level, or is, it shouldn't, according to your explanation?
It should, we will certainly monitor, watch, and communicate as we see that, and actually screen, quite frankly, if we see that interruption in services we can afford to let happen. Just a few other comments real quick too, and again, I want to keep pointing these out because it's large numbers, but in the other current assets, again, that's a dish with receivable, that's, Brian just mentioned that earlier too, we are anticipating receiving monies, from the program this year. National very soon. Just looking at liabilities, again, we're still in a great position from an asset standpoint compared to our liabilities, but just want to make some notes on liabilities. And again, just for clarity purposes, intangibles does appear to be a large number, 2.6 million, but what is inside of that is what's important. Obviously, your vendor payables, as Brian mentioned earlier, too, from an audit standpoint. The audit, again, was through 9/30 of 24, but when we look at February of 2025, so fast forward or advance forward 5 months, and we still feel from a vendor standpoint, no vendors are at risk. All vendors are still being paid appropriately and so forth. But what is in those numbers does include, as we mentioned earlier, that bridge payment that is anticipated, as Brian mentioned, not forward, sitting at about $4,000 right up there inside of that. We also have, and you'll see this number change. You'll see it actually decrease some once these audit adjustments that Brian did point out, once they are posted into the month, you'll see this reflected in March. And I know you mentioned that the only exchange funds where the hospital received the grant, received the cash was for the county, so that exchange of funds and so forth will be reflected through an audit adjustment to see that payable decrease. And then lastly, on the balance sheet, just wanted to point out the other current liabilities against a large number, just for clarity around that. Knowledge is cost report is inside that ACA assessments, required more or less to pay ACA assessments related on beds and so forth, and then grant monies that we discussed. Chris, I know that was mentioned earlier about the CT and so forth. That was grant monies to the Rural Hospital Improvement Capital Improvement Program. Florida has graciously awarded hospitals the past couple of years with different grants. But those grants, in essence, parked on the balance sheet when they deferred, from a liability standpoint, because they have strings attached to them. Once the service is put in place, then those funds will be released. So it's a liability now because we didn't do it. But we are moving that forward, as Greg mentioned. Let's move forward with that as projected. So. And lastly, we do have, our dashboard, which does have financial indicators, operating indicators, project indicators, and so forth. Again, I'm not going to run through all of these, but it's in there for your reference. But I do want to give just acknowledgement to those key project areas, because the mammography program continues to drive service for the hospital. We did have 19 swing days, although they were down. Again, like I mentioned earlier, but as Courtney just mentioned, carrying a 3 census today, that is strong. And that we hope to see that continue to improve there. We feel confident that the chronic care management program continues to do well. We see the volumes increase and kind of stabilize for the past 3 or 4 months in that program. Again, that has been a good contributor to service, to get an overall service that the hospital is able to provide. So with that, I'll pause and some questions.
One question. That report by the CPA firm gave a preliminary report or something. The areas we need to improve. I think it'd be good if we designate them out, put a bullet by each of them, and see what we're doing there. I don't know a lot we can do with some of that stuff, but anyway, I know that we need to address each. I know that was preliminary, and I don't know when the others come. Some of them things they said like 2.5 or something. I don't know what that is. Some of the ratios they gave. I don't know what we can do with that, but there were some areas that like we did the county report, do a bullet correct.
And what Chairman's mentioning is Baker Tilly presented to the county last month or earlier in the month about some recommendations they saw and so forth. And
I think we need to look at all of them.
We publicly thank them for that review, and we're certainly going to look at those and what we have suggested in management discussions has been, let's bullet point those as a quick corrective action plan. Let's address them. Let's see what can we do. Move that. What can't we do?
Yeah, I think it'd be good if this board gave some permission to the bullet, simple bullet. These were the things that they made recommendations, and if it's some that it might be a 3-year process. I'm not sure. Let's put a time on it.
Yeah, well, one of those was, again, the departmental involvement. I know there was even some questions amongst the county commissioners around the departmental involvement, having departmental leaders responsible for their budgets and so forth. And yes, absolutely. they will receive the details behind that and what's involved. Corey just mentioned Lab's already getting involved. So they will be involved with that process. They will have what is called a department operating review, which will show the statistics for their utilization statistics for their particular department that they'll have a target. They'll have say and input into that target and so forth, and the revenue generation behind those utilization statistics, and then certainly the expenditures that fall into suit with that as well. They will have that.
Anybody got anything else? I thought the financial report article was very good too. I think, you know, you always have needs to correct things. There's a couple going to be, I think the part about the IT is going to be a continual, every year stuff be added on. It'll be added on. So, yeah, I need to be on top of that. I think it'll be a good report, a good financial report.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned at the start, I mean, I think just hearing from an independent third-party financial audit that year over year, the hospital continues to improve, operation has improved, cash position has improved. Then when you get to even the viewpoint of looking at quantity of adjustments, I see quantity, the number of adjustments and activities they got to adjust has improved, has decreased. And yeah, he noted the findings, as he mentioned, one of those findings, and I will echo what you mentioned. I mean, we see that across the board with a lot of different small rural facilities. You know, the resources, segregation of the abilities in some of those roles. And you do have limited things, folks to be able to do some of those tasks. So you will see that. I do everything that you said. We'll get the feedback from the results of the review that's in place. That will be shared, of course, with the board. That's going to be a yearly.
Tell you what, too, I think the department heads, we need to operate like we're one day away from bankruptcy. Keep building, finding ways for money to come in, and programs and services and stuff like that, and just kind of be desperate for it, like we, you know, that's what it's going to take to get that curve on up. Right? It's going to get happening. Anybody got anything? Thank you. David's gone. We have to go. Michael's going to give up. We don't have a update or goes on.
I think we was having sound issues.
Yes, we don't have it. Mr. Kozar, can you hear me? There we go. We got you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me? I can't hear you now. Hold on. We can't hear you. Wonder what we got to do.
Are you on mute?
I don't know. He's done this a lot. Volume, but he can't. We,
Hey, Michael, speak.
can you hear me? Say something. Is he muted somewhere?
I'm gonna mute and then unmute, just to see if it helps.
Okay, well, we'll get a double update next time. I think he's not gonna add much to what you said unless you want to say something else.
Yeah, what I was going to mention too is just about the conference. We had,
Right
we had
there.
we had a great, we had a great conference, and I think the feedback that we have gotten was that it's one of our best. And I really think that the participation and hearing from the hospitals that were able to present and share their stories, it was well received. I can't thank Pauline enough too, but when Pauline shared from a foundation standpoint, we had a session called Financial Sustainability. We had a hospital that's had a great story with critical access turnaround and converted critical access. We have one that's going through the process. They've gotten the ball in the end zone, but they've had a lot of cash challenges. And then we had in the Weems situation really reigniting, kickstarting, rejuvenating, revitalizing, all these good things that Colleen was able to really bring forward about what they did on the innovation standpoint, and the awareness that they started to bring to this hospital. So we're well received. We had actually a lot of hospitals that have asked to her to share more and share her energy and drive as well for what she's been able to do. So again, day 2 of it was great. We had an individual that March Tower, they do a lot of work with a lot of different industries, but they're instrumental in helping with Chick-fil-A as well. But again, that was more board governance, board education, and so forth. And I thought they did a phenomenal job. And we're looking at ways to be able to utilize them as well in a way that can help within the culture of each facility. Everybody's facilities are a little bit different, right? It's just the nature of the cultures and so forth. So, yeah, it's a great day. And then last, good session with some experts that spoke about some different options and so forth. And, so I thought, again, great conference. Appreciate those that were able to attend. And we usually facilitate these on a yearly basis, so we encourage that participation. Overall, it's great. And lastly, one other quick update. I mentioned the financial reporting platform. We are going to look at that and be able to roll that out. That will help, as I mentioned earlier. There's another program too that kind of goes with what you guys remember earlier, what Dr. Conrad mentioned when he said, hey, maybe some days we see 10 or 12 patients in a day, maybe some days we see 4. Doesn't mean we're not busy, but they do have what is recognized in federal statute rules is standby time, where they are there. They're available, they have to be available, but they are, like the better word, standing by. And that standby time is able to be reimbursed to the Medicare contract. But you got to accurately capture that standby time. And the process that's in place today, and in place in many places, is an arbitrary process where they are documenting and signing off about their standby time. We are looking at a technology-driven program that will allow Bluetooth capability and AirTag capability, recognizing where folks are, so it can more systematically capture and that quote-unquote standby time, so that we give a more accurate picture. That technology has been around, and now it's being accepted by the MACs, those contractors who do that third-party review audit work. So we've got to put a control in place. I guess, long story short, we're trying to put a stronger control in place that more accurately can capture the time, but also more accurately support that time, because it's a metric-driven automated process versus someone putting on a sheet. So,
Are you saying that the standby time has not been captured?
No, it has been. No, it has.
Has been?
It has been. But again, this is a way of tightening, including more of an automated process. Yeah, versus
And therefore less disputed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In the event of more audit focus, that ties back to what you mentioned.
Thank you. Anybody got anything else? Yeah. Thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, I got one thing. the county's working hard, the commissioner's working hard to make this a premier hospital, in my opinion. There's been more attention given to this hospital recently than I can remember, which is real good. I have no idea what's going to happen. If you want to know what the commission's doing, watch the program. You know, and the one thing we don't need to do is this small town, I'll be honest, rumors will start flying around about the hospital when no decision's been made by anybody. The commission's got to get information, just like we got to get information, and you know, they'll make a decision, which is fine. So, but let's don't fuel up any rumor here going out there. So God knows what you'll hear. Okay, I guarantee you, I go somewhere and say one thing, and I can get it back to 1,000 people right there. You know, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to make one other comment. It kind of goes along with what you're saying, but I mean, I want to personally and publicly thank the county did vote to renew our line management, and we want to publicly thank the county for doing that, because again, you know, we've invested a lot into this hospital, and we see a lot of improvement, a lot of performance improvement. I know there's been, lack of better words, controversial discussions in the past, but we have certainly seen improvement with the hospital. We truly appreciate the opportunity to work with the hospital. We're super encouraged by the leadership team here and the progress that they're making. You know, we're proud to be part of this team too, and hope to work with many more months with the hospital, and want to be a partner with you guys with this. So I want to publicly thank that as well.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Okay, I forgot. Sorry, that's very important. The
He always
foundation,
forgets the
please.
foundation. We're
Go ahead.
redheaded stepchild, is that what it is?
No, you're not. No, you're not. I don't have a good memory. Gotta make sure we get that on it.
All right, take these, pass these down. So we have set the date for the next, it's not going to be called a gala, because we're not going to do a big fancy sit-down dinner this time around. We feel that the community can only handle that once every other year. So this year is going to be more of a kind of a cocktails and chef curated tapas in small plates, and it's going to be held at the Apalachicola Yacht Club. So there is a bar. We're going to bring in chefs to do the food for the event, more like a cocktail, heavy appetizers and cocktails. Live music will be part of it. Colleen also, made a contact with a gentleman who's involved in the Freedom Fest, because that weekend, this is ours is on a Sunday, November 9th. The Freedom Fest at the airport is actually Saturday, November 8th. So we were talking with a gentleman named Philip Shelley, who's on the board over there, and we're going to try and do some collaborative promoting between the two, because it is a Veterans Day weekend. People should have off, I believe, Monday, which is why we're doing ours on Sunday and theirs is on Saturday. So we're going to try and do some cross promotion of these two events, and maybe help draw people to both events over that weekend. So a number of activities that they can all participate in. And I would suggest a call to action for the board here would be for all of you to go on to the foundation's website, like it, and follow it. And then share it if you feel comfortable sharing it, because that brings in and draws in more people into the foundation's Facebook page. And once we get over 100 people who are on the Facebook page, we can push out more information less expensively and to greater groups. So that would be really, really helpful. And it doesn't cost you anything to do. All you need to do is go onto the website, like whatever's on there, join, and then if you see what's the foundation information for this event should be on there, you could share that event information out to your people who are your members on your
So if
group.
we own a business, we can share this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're also looking for obviously donations from, because we're, because the way this is going to be set up is a little different. We are going to be looking for donations for people who are going to support the event. So, businesses and our Alliant friends who were very generous last time in grabbing 2 tables. Instead of the table cost, now it's going to be an event cost. Of, we'll have some things that we can bring up that they could maybe support. For instance, either food or the liquor, or, some portion of it, or just an overall donation that'll help out, offsetting the cost of the event and put more profit in the books, which will then again come to Weems. So that's all I got, but
Looks good to me.
definitely do that. Thank you.
Can I go back to what you just said?
Sure.
Remember we brought up before about next door, those apps?
Yes.
I still haven't seen anything but liens on the next door at Alligator Point.
For Weems or for the foundation?
For our foundation or Weems, either one. And I don't know
I
how
don't know
much
what
I'm
that is.
using those local, next door apps. I did to the people.
Yeah, I did think that Colleen got involved in the Appalachian.
Cola, is that separate from Alligator Point?
Everybody, Glenark has their own.
Okay,
So
so maybe she needs to go on to more than one next door app, because I
David,
think
we
she
need
did the
to-
one in
we need to get
Apalachicola.
that. Something about, get Weems Hospital on those other little local, everybody's got their own little, I don't ever look at it, unless I wanna buy something, I'll look at it. But, let's check into that, okay?
give you an example of something. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mr. Weatherman, that's out on YouTube, but he's very, very accurate. And he's accurate as far as about a week and a half out. I started posting his forecast every day onto the next door app there. I have about 250, 300 people who are looking at that every day, every 2 days. So I'm saying, if you're not using it, we're missing out on that.
Sure. Anything else, Bill? Okay, that concludes. Anybody, any board members got anything else?
No, sir, just think you're doing a great job.
Who, me?
All of them. No, I mean, organization. It's a big difference since I came on board.
But I appreciate everybody. Welcome new board member again. And I'll see y'all next month. Mr. Kozar, can you hear me? Thank you very much. We can't hear you. We don't want to.
Thumbs up. David or Ray.
And remember this date. Craig Gibson did not ask for money. Okay, y'all, let's write that down now.